Welcome back to YouTube channel, where stories of rare coins, mind-blowing value, and unexpected history come to life in ways you've never imagined. Today, we take you on a journey that sounds like it came from a blockbuster movie script, but it's rooted in truth, twists of fate, and the incredible legacy of a single coin, the 1989 P quarter dollar that shocked the world with its staggering $367 million valuation. This isn't just about a coin, it's about a mystery, a chase, a hidden secret buried beneath layers of time, and the people forever changed by it. It all began in a quiet suburb just outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. A retired aerospace engineer named Walter Ellison had always been a collector of small things. To the outside world, he was just a man who liked stamps and occasionally tinkered with old watches. But inside his home, in the back of a basement that smelled faintly of engine oil and old books, was a meticulously catalogued collection of U.S. coinage spanning decades, if not centuries. Among them, tucked in a protective plastic sleeve and placed between an ordinary 1988 and 1990 quarter, was a shiny 1989 P quarter dollar. Nothing at first seemed special. It looked like every other coin minted in that era. But Walter had a habit of jotting down peculiarities. On a faded yellow post-it note stuck behind the coin's holder were just two words: "Something's off." Walter passed away in early 2006. His daughter, Marlene, came to clear the house and found the coin collection. She didn't know much about it, and nearly threw it all away, thinking it was junk. But on a whim, she took the boxes to a local numismatist named Anthony Duarte, who owned a small coin shop near downtown. Anthony was used to seeing people walk in hoping for miracles, a coin worth millions, a stamp worth a car. But when he got to the 1989 P quarter, something made him pause. There was a shimmer to it. Not just from the shine, but a kind of depth in the metal that most modern coins simply don't have. He picked it up, flipped it under his loupe, and gasped. This wasn't just a regular quarter. The detail on Washington's bust was too crisp, the edge too perfectly milled. And strangest of all, there appeared to be something embedded deep within the coin, something not visible to the naked eye, but detectable with certain lighting and magnification. He didn't say much to Marlene except, "Let me do some research." And so began a 2-year investigation. Anthony reached out to metallurgy experts, former mint employees, and historians. What they discovered was a confluence of errors and near impossibilities that made the coin a once-in-a-universe find. The 1989 P mint mark indicated it was struck in Philadelphia. But the alloy composition was unlike anything standard for the time. Upon atomic-level testing, there were traces of palladium and iridium, metals not used in coin production and certainly not in a 25-cent piece. More bizarrely, the metallurgists reported that the internal structure of the coin suggested a layered casting, which should have been impossible for a quarter of that type. Word started to spread in small coin circles. Whispers of the iridium quarter made it to elite collectors. Offers began flooding Anthony's email inbox, starting in the low thousands, then moving into tens of thousands. One anonymous bidder from Switzerland offered $2.1 million sight unseen. But Anthony refused to sell. He wanted answers. Then came the letter, typed on crisp cream paper, without return address, and simply signed D. The letter arrived one morning in 2009. It referenced the coin, stating that it had been a deliberate anomaly, inserted into the production line by a rogue group of mint workers who had been part of an underground network experimenting with hybrid coinage. The letter mentioned Project Aegis, a classified initiative run during the Cold War that utilized precious metals embedded in common objects for covert tracking and intelligence sharing. Coins like this were meant to act as mobile data carriers or traceable tokens in espionage missions. But when the project was decommissioned in the late 80s, most of the prototypes were melted or destroyed. Most, except one. Anthony didn't know what to believe. He brought the letter to the FBI, who politely dismissed him. But 2 days after that visit, his shop was broken into. Nothing was taken. No money, no inventory. Just the coin was gone, he went quiet for nearly a decade. Rumors said Anthony disappeared, moved to Costa Rica, or joined a secret collectors' society. But in 2018, at the Florida United Numismatists Convention, a shocking announcement was made. A private collector from Dubai had acquired a 1989 P quarter with the same anomalous metal signature and was willing to display it briefly before it would be returned to a secure vault in the UAE. When the coin went on display, it was encased in a rotating biometric vault, accompanied by armed guards. The valuation? $367 million. The reasoning? Not just the rarity or composition, but because the coin was linked to an unsolved espionage case involving the disappearance of 3 CIA assets in 1989. Somehow, this quarter was the last item all three had reportedly handled. This ignited a firestorm. Newspapers dug up old government files. Coin experts, intelligence historians, and conspiracy theorists all tried to trace the coin's journey. Theories ranged from the rational to the bizarre. Some believed it was part of a technological experiment using embedded data chips to transport microfilm information. Others insisted the coin was cursed, tied to a string of tragic events. One collector who once held it was struck by lightning, another disappeared hiking in the Andes, but the real story was even stranger. In 2020, a retired NSA cryptographer named Eliza Tran came forward with a confession. She had been part of the Aegis program and confirmed that certain coins were, in fact, used to transfer encoded communications. What made the 1989 P quarter unique, she said, was that it wasn't just a transmitter, it was a receiver. In other words, it could pick up certain frequencies and store them in atomic structures of its rare metals. In theory, if the correct decoding equipment was applied, one could extract encrypted messages from it, messages that may still be inside. After this revelation, the coin's value soared even further. Governments became involved. An interagency panel was formed between the US, Canada, and the UK to examine the coin under international protocols. But the owner refused to hand it over, claiming that it was legally obtained and securely housed in Dubai under sovereign protection. Negotiations stalled, and the coin effectively disappeared from public record, but whispers of it never stopped. By 2023, rumors swirled that Elon Musk's team at Neuralink had acquired scanning rights to the coin, hoping to determine if its frequency resonance could be used for data transmission on the quantum level. Musk himself never confirmed this, but an anonymous leak on Reddit detailed what looked like test results, showing potential signal retention beyond anything seen before in metal surfaces of that size. The 1989 P quarter was now no longer just a collector's item. It was considered a potential artifact of technological evolution, a bridge between the analog and digital worlds, between history and future innovation. Some even theorized it could be the key to developing untraceable communication devices, or even quantum computing advancements. And still, the coin remained hidden, but the real twist came in late 2024, when an old box from Anthony Duarte's coin shop was recovered from a storage facility in South Carolina. Inside was another 1989 P quarter. Not quite the same, but similar. It had the same unusual sheen, the same sharp detail. It was auctioned anonymously online. The winning bid? $97 million. And the buyer? None other than Marlene Ellison, the original heir to Walter's collection. She had been watching the story unfold, waiting for the right time. She believed this was her father's backup, his plan B. And she wasn't going to let it slip away again. Today, both coins are unaccounted for. Some believe they're kept together, hidden in a mountain fortress in Europe. Others say they were buried with a mysterious billionaire collector who died in silence, leaving no will. But what remains is the legend, a small silver disc no larger than your fingernail, worth more than any single item of its kind in history. A coin not just of monetary value, but of mystery, power, and unanswered questions. So the next time you pick up your change, don't just toss it in a jar or leave it in the cup holder of your car. Look a little closer. Because somewhere out there, maybe in your pocket, maybe under your couch, there could be another coin. A coin that holds secrets. A coin that could change everything, and that's the unbelievable story of the 1989 P quarter dollar, a 25-cent piece worth $367 million, wrapped in espionage, technology, and fate. If you enjoyed this journey, make sure to stick around, because next time, we might just uncover the secrets behind another rare coin that history forgot until now. Last 1995 P, the only place where history, mystery, and big money collide in the most unexpected places. If you've ever walked past a coin and thought it was just ordinary change, you might want to rethink that belief right now. Because today, we are diving deep into one of the most jaw-dropping stories in the entire world of numismatics. And this time, the spotlight is shining brightly on the 1995 P quarter dollar, a coin that doesn't just jingle in pockets, it roars with a value of $348 million. Yes, you heard that right. A simple quarter from 1995, minted in Philadelphia, has gone on to claim a place among the most valuable coins in human history. But how did it get there? What chain of events, what mysteries, and what untold secrets have elevated this 25-cent piece into the realm of unimaginable wealth? Let's rewind time and begin this adventure. It all started on a rainy afternoon in a sleepy Pennsylvania town in the fall of 1996. Most people were indoors, huddled with cups of coffee or catching the evening news. But one man, a retired chemistry teacher named Harold Drayton, was in the middle of sorting through his coin collection. He had picked up the hobby during his teaching years, often using coins to explain metallurgical reactions to students. After decades of casual collecting, he decided to catalog and clean some of the older coins he had received as change from grocery stores, gas stations, and flea markets. He had no idea that in one of those little Ziploc bags in his basement, tucked beneath an envelope of steel pennies and bicentennial quarters, lay a coin that would change his life and history forever. As Harold flipped through his quarter stash, something caught his eye. It wasn't just the gleam. It was the distinct feel of the coin. It felt heavier than usual. The rim was slightly irregular, and when he flipped it, the sound it made was off. Not the typical high-pitched ring of a standard-clad quarter. Intrigued, he set it aside. It was a 1995 P quarter. Nothing fancy at first glance. Just George Washington on the obverse, the familiar eagle on the reverse. But Harold couldn't shake the feeling. There was something strange about it. He reached for his magnifying glass and leaned in. What he saw changed everything. The mint mark was clearly a P, indicating it was struck in Philadelphia. But the Liberty inscription looked odd, off-center, slightly doubled. The profile of Washington seemed slightly shifted too, almost as if there was a ghostly echo just behind his bust. The surface of the coin shimmered in a way he'd never seen before, almost like it had been struck on a different type of metal. Harold, driven by curiosity, began researching minting errors and anomalies. He spent weeks contacting coin experts, sending photos, and even mailing the coin to a certified numismatic lab. When the results came back, they were staggering. This 1995 P quarter had been struck on a silver planchet by accident, a leftover from a different coin series. Not only that, but it also displayed a rare double die error on both the obverse and reverse sides. And the most bizarre part? It had microscopic inscriptions, seemingly unintentional, along the rim, markings that bore resemblance to old engravers' codes used in the 19th century. It was as if this coin was born from multiple time periods. The lab confirmed that this quarter was a minting error so rare, so unprecedented, that no known copies like it had ever surfaced before. Harold had discovered the one and only, and news traveled fast. Word spread across coin forums, collector clubs, and eventually the mainstream media. Offers poured in from private collectors, museums, and auction houses. Harold, however, wasn't interested in selling, at least not yet. He was fascinated. Who had made this coin? Why did it contain such anomalies? How had it gone unnoticed for so long? Driven by a desire to uncover the truth, Harold dove headfirst into archival records from the Philadelphia Mint. He uncovered something peculiar. In the months of early 1995, there had been multiple reports of mechanical failure, unexpected strikes, and unauthorized personnel entering the press floor. Some internal memos even hinted at the possibility of experimental coin designs being tested, designs that were never approved or disclosed publicly. The deeper Harold went, the more chilling the mystery became. He found an old mint worker, retired and living in Delaware, who agreed to speak under the condition of anonymity. This man, who claimed to have worked the night shift during 1995, spoke of a rogue engraver, an eccentric, brilliant employee who was obsessed with embedding secret messages and historical callbacks into coin dies. This engraver had been terminated abruptly in mid-1995, shortly after an incident involving a damaged die and unauthorized strike tests. Harold began to suspect that this rogue engraver may have left his signature in the coin, not metaphorically, but literally. He sent the coin for further forensic analysis. Under extreme magnification, new details emerged. There were symbols buried in the texture of the coin that resembled ancient alchemical codes. On the reverse, just beneath the eagle's wing, a sequence of dots and slashes was decoded to reveal a message: "Time doesn't forget." What did it mean? Was this a prank, or a calculated message from someone trying to preserve history in a hidden way? The numismatic world exploded with theories. Some believed the coin was part of a hidden mint program that had ties to Cold War intelligence work. Others thought it was an attempt by a rogue artist to challenge the U.S. Treasury. A small fringe even proposed that the coin might be a time traveler's artifact, something never meant to exist in this era. Despite the outlandish claims, one thing was undeniable: the coin was a one-of-a-kind error, struck under unknown circumstances, and it was worth an astronomical amount. A private auction held in Switzerland, known for its secrecy and high-net-worth clientele, saw the coin bid on by royalty, oil magnates, and tech billionaires. The final bid came in at $348 million, paid in gold-backed cryptocurrency by an anonymous buyer whose only instruction was that the coin be sealed in a vault for 100 years, not to be touched or examined until 2095. Harold, now a millionaire many times over, faded into the background of history. He moved to the Rockies, purchased a sprawling cabin estate, and began teaching coin history online under an alias. He never disclosed the identity of the buyer, nor did he share everything he had learned. But he left behind a journal, portions of which were published after his passing, where he spoke of the coin not just as currency, but as a message in metal, a whisper from another timeline. Years after the auction, whispers about the coin still circulate. Some say the coin bears coordinates to a forgotten archaeological site. Others believe it contains a chemical formula for a rare isotope. Some even think it was made from melted-down remnants of a coin recovered from a sunken ship. Each theory adds to the legend, turning a 25-cent piece into a relic of mythological proportions. Historians still debate its origins. The U.S. Mint has never acknowledged the coin's existence, and all requests for internal documents from 1995 are met with redactions and denial. But one thing is clear: this coin didn't just change Harold's life, it changed the way we see value, history, and the things we overlook every day. It made people question how something so small could be worth so much. Not just in dollars, but in stories, secrets, and the mysteries at unearthed.so. The next time you get a quarter back in change, look closely. Tilt it toward the light. Feel the weight. Listen to its ring. Because you never know if you're holding something forged not just in metal, but in mystery. Months passed after the sale of the coin, and silence settled over the numismatic community like a thick fog. With Harold's retreat from the public eye and the coin vanishing into obscurity, many assumed the story had reached its conclusion. But they were wrong. Because legends, especially those forged in the fire of secrecy and wealth, have a way of resurrecting themselves. It began subtly, as these things often do. A young numismatist named Elena Vargas, a rising star in the academic world of coin authentication, began researching the case for her doctoral thesis. Elena was fascinated by anomalies, not just minting errors but historical contradictions, moments where official records clashed with physical evidence. The story of the 1995 P quarter was filled with such contradictions. She pored over every public document she could find. She interviewed Harold's former colleagues. She tracked down the Mint lab technicians who had examined the coin, though most had gone quiet or claimed not to remember anything at all. But Elena was relentless. She soon uncovered something Harold had never published. A second coin, IT, had been mentioned briefly in a letter Harold wrote to a trusted friend, a letter that ended up in a private collection and was only made public during a separate estate auction. In it, Harold cryptically wrote, "It's not alone. There's another. Different errors. Same metal. Different voice." Elena was electrified. If there was another 1995 P quarter out there, struck on a silver planchet and carrying its own unique set of anomalies, the implications were staggering. Not only would it double the known occurrences of this impossible coin, but it would also suggest that Harold's find wasn't just a one-off error, it was part of something larger. She began retracing Harold's steps, visiting the small-town flea markets he once scoured. She posted notices in local newspapers and online forums, offering to appraise any 1995 quarters people might have tucked away. For months, nothing surfaced. But then, one Sunday morning in a dusty antique shop on the edge of Lancaster, a woman walked in carrying a jar of old coins. She wasn't there to sell, just to find out if anything was valuable. Elena, who happened to be on site for a local appraisal event, almost missed it, but as she sifted through the coins, her heart stopped. There it was. A 1995 P quarter. At first glance, it looked standard. No visible doubling. No unusual toning. But Elena, with a trained eye, noticed that the date spacing was off. Slightly wider than usual. Her hands trembled as she flipped it under the loupe. On the obverse, buried just below the curve of Washington's neckline, was a faint groove, so faint that most eyes would miss it entirely. But under magnification, it revealed something incredible. A series of tiny characters etched into the metal, numbers, letters, and symbols, forming a code. Elena purchased the coin on the spot for $100, much to the surprise of the woman, who thought the coin might be worth a quarter at most. The moment Elena got back to her lab, she placed the coin under high-resolution scanning equipment. What she found nearly stopped her heart. The coin bore evidence of layered engraving, a technology not available in 1995. Within the tiny groove was an encrypted message, a string of coordinates, dates, and what appeared to be a binary sequence. After weeks of deciphering and consulting with cryptographers, the message became clear: Vault 17. Q prototype. Rejected. Preserve. 2025 Vault 17. Elena traced this reference to a decommissioned storage unit once owned by the U.S. Mint, located in a now abandoned facility outside of Harrisburg. The building had long since been sold to a private logistics firm and was under heavy security. Undeterred, Elena went public with her findings. Her story was published in a renowned scientific journal, drawing the attention of not only the coin-collecting world but also historians, conspiracy theorists, and investigative journalists. Then came the twist. The day after her publication, Elena received an unmarked envelope at her university office. Inside was a single photograph, grainy, black and white, clearly from an older surveillance camera. It showed a man in a mint uniform standing over a coin press, holding a die in one hand. The timestamp read, March 22, 1995. The location, Philadelphia Mint, Die Room 3B. On the back of the photograph was a single sentence: "Find the die. Find the truth." The message plunged Elena into the heart of a new mystery. She contacted the Mint, requested access to their archived die storage and destruction logs. Initially cooperative, the Mint soon clammed up. Files she had access to one week disappeared the next. scheduled interviews with former employees were suddenly cancelled. Her university began receiving anonymous complaints about her conduct. It became clear someone didn't want the second coin story told, but the pressure only fueled her determination, with help from a retired mint supervisor who remembered rumors of a Die 127C that was pulled from circulation after a high-level meeting in spring of 1995. Elena finally located a document hidden deep in a forgotten archive. It was a Die disposal manifest, falsely signed, dated weeks after the coin press timestamp. The document claimed Die 127C had been destroyed in late April 1995. But surveillance footage proved it had been in use before then. And if the die wasn't destroyed, where was it? The trail went cold. Until a breakthrough came from an unlikely source, a former janitor from the mint, who contacted Elena after seeing her interview on a podcast. He remembered something odd from 1995. A night when a small team of workers loaded a heavy, lead-lined crate into a van with no markings. It was whisked away by people who weren't in mint uniforms and who didn't sign in at security. All he remembered was the label on the crate, property of FMS 17. FMS. Federal Mint Security. A now-defunct division of the U.S. Treasury responsible for handling sensitive materials related to experimental currency and error suppression. Decommissioned in 2001, all their assets were believed to be transferred to a classified facility in the Midwest. But no official record of where they went exists. Elena theorized that the die, and potentially more prototype coins, had been relocated and sealed away. But why? And why now, after all these years, had the second coin surfaced? She believed the coin wasn't just an accident, it was part of a message. A breadcrumb trail, left by someone on the inside, pointing toward a suppressed chapter of monetary history. In late 2025, a private research team, funded by an anonymous donor who had read Elena's work, began a ground scan of the Harrisburg facility. What they found shocked even the skeptics. Beneath the parking lot was an access tunnel, sealed behind a reinforced vault door marked Section 17B. Hidden for decades, it bore no record in modern blueprints. And inside? Rows of crates, coin presses, and locked drawers filled with strange metallic discs, some blank, some bearing date stamps that never made it to circulation. 1983, 1999, even one marked 2001 Liberty redesign, rejected. But among them, they found something else. Die 127C. Still intact. Still engraved. Still showing the ghostly outlines of the quarter design, along with a unique pattern beneath the surface and inner ring of microetching that included not just numbers, but language fragments from multiple global alphabets, Greek, Hebrew, Cyrillic, and even some undeciphered symbols resembling ancient script. And at its base, the words Project Echo. Initiated March 21, 95. Not to be struck. No one could explain how or why the die was used. No records showed its approval. No documents revealed the identity of the engraver. But two coins had been struck. One sold for $348 million. One found its way to a coin jar in Lancaster. How many more existed? The 1995 P quarter dollar, once just a footnote in coin collecting lore, became a centerpiece of global fascination. The Smithsonian made a formal request to house one of the known coins, but was denied. The buyer who had sealed the first coin for 100 years refused to break the vault's terms. And Elena, now thrust into the global spotlight, became both a hero and a target, because even now, the full truth remains elusive. Was the 1995 P quarter a test? A prototype? A hidden message from someone trying to outwit the system? Or was it something even deeper, a symbol of rebellion, a key to a secret long buried beneath the surface of ordinary currency? One thing is certain. This is no ordinary quarter. It never was. It's a testament to mystery, human error, and perhaps a whisper from a past not fully understood. Because value isn't just measured in dollars, it's measured in meaning. And this coin, this gleaming anomaly from 1995, is richer in meaning than most will ever know, and as long as coins jingle in our pockets, as long as we trade silver for stories, someone, somewhere, will keep searching for the next whisper in metal. Stay curious, stay sharp, and check your change. Because history doesn't always announce itself, it sometimes hides in plain sight.